Alright guys, so a few weeks ago Notion dropped a big Notion 3.0 update, and this is their biggest AI update yet. And honestly, it is so deeply integrated with premium AI models that it feels like Notion was built as an AI application from day one, not something that they just bolted on later. But here's the thing, most people are still using Notion AI like a generic chatbot. No context handoff, no conditional behavior, and no way to scale your workflow beyond the one personality. So naturally, I had to push it to its absolute limits. And today I'm going to be showing you guys my Agent OS template, which is a multi-agent system built with highly tailored context and conditional logic that completely changes how you work with Notion AI. So instead of manually feeding in context every single time, Agent OS gives you 8 specialized modes. Each one is an expert in a different area of your business. And this is all managed from one single instructions page that routes context for you automatically. I call it air conditioner logic. You set the temperature once, and the system decides when to cool, when to heat, and what vent to use, right? So what exactly are these different modes, you might ask? Well, you get 8 of them out of the box. Operations Manager, Research and Analytics, Marketing and Content, Songwriting Collaborator, Release Strategist, Visual and Brand Strategist, Career Coach, and finally, a Legal Consultant. Now, originally I designed Agent OS to be a complement to my Musician OS template, which is a turnkey operational framework for musicians and music professionals. And it does do this remarkably well. But here's the thing. The template is also a masterclass in what is actually possible with Notion's new AI agents. So you're going to see how to build conditional logic workflows, how to engineer refined system prompts, as well as looking at context engineering in general. And then we're also going to look at how to build multi-agent systems. Basically every single thing that you need to build your own highly powered agent workflows for any use case. And yes, Notion AI does still have some limitations. There's no native chat history. You can technically only have one personalized agent, but I'm going to show you the workaround for that. And you are also required to upgrade to the Notion business plan to use Notion AI. You can't just add the AI features on as an extra like you could before. But the good news is the Agent OS works around many of these constraints, and to give you a system that actually feels like having a full team at your fingertips. So stick around, because I'm going to break down exactly how the system works, show you all of the 8 agent modes, give you a behind the scenes look at the architecture that makes this all possible. So if we come down here to the bottom right and we just open up our AI, we'll just put this in the sidebar view. We can see here that if we click, we have the option to add system instructions. Now I've already got the Atlas agent system instructions set up, but for the purpose of just showing you some different options, if we add the minimalist one here, you can see this page defines your interactions, work style, identity. You will always respect the instructions outlined below, etc., etc. And what is actually happening here is that every time you are putting in a message, it actually references this information. So what does this mean? Well, if we want our AI to behave in a way that is giving us structured outputs, or communicate in a certain way, or write in a certain way, perhaps we want to remove those M dashes which are seen in all AI generated text, or we want it to be a little bit more short and concise in its responses, or perhaps more verbose, whatever it is. This is what you can add in here, and this will just help your AI have consistent behavior every time. But if we start to extrapolate from there, you can see there's a huge scope to actually remarkably improve what our AI is doing. To give you an example of this, if we come to my prompt operating system here, you can see that I've got all of these prompts which I was previously using to put into AI like Claude. And if we just open this one here, you can see I'm following a similar thing here where I break down the context and role, the content philosophy. I have a very strict framework that I wanted to follow, voice and tone guidelines. So every time I'll be asking Claude or ChatGPT to write me a script, I start off that chat by copying this, adding it in, and then I will put the single line of what I want the script to be about. So to make this process easier, I ended up making a custom GPT, which has all of this built in. And therefore, every time I go to my custom GPT and I say, hey, write me a script about X, Y, or Z, it just reads that and nails it. But now what we can do with Agent OS, essentially here, you can see it would be possible for me to put this script in here. So every time I ask it, hey, write me a script, it's going to read that. Voila. And so this is essentially what personalization is about. It's helping to streamline your workflow so that you don't have to be copying and rewriting stuff every single time you're trying to get a repeated outcome. This brings me to the next point, which is about multimodal agents. If we assume that in our one instructions page, we can actually have complicated instructions where we have perhaps two roles, and we say, if the user asks for this, read this role. If it asks for this, read this role. You can see that we are able to create this kind of schema of logic, which the AI will follow every time you write a prompt. And so this is essentially the basis of this entire template. Now, as I mentioned before, I've got these 8 different modes, and we'll look at these in a little bit more detail shortly. But what I want to take you guys through now is just the onboarding and how to really get started with this template. If we come and we click here, you can see it's a little bit of a breakdown about what Atlas Agent is, multimodal, automatically selecting one of the 8 specialized modes. That's all good. You can see a quick breakdown here of the different modes. And then we come into some adjustments which I've built into the agent as well. So I mentioned before that there's no pervasive chat history. If we're opening and discussing things here in our AI chat, as soon as I close this window, that chat history is gone. And so you need to actually explicitly ask the AI to save that, and you need to ask it to save it somewhere. So what I've done is chat history has got a specific page where we save. If we come look here at this database, you can see it'll do an AI summary. Here will be the actual content, and it gives you a date and all of that kind of stuff as well. And additionally, I've also created memories and user preferences. Now, given that this is an agent, what actually happens is when you ask it to perform a task, if there's multiple steps involved with that task, the AI actually needs to break that down and create a list of what it needs to do so that it doesn't drift or get lost on the way. And the memories and user preferences page is where this will happen. So as you can see here, this page stores the project context and strategic decisions for continually across conversations. So if I was to ask the agent to go and do a deep research or competitor analysis about another band or something like that, it then would come in here, automatically write down all of the steps it needs to do, and then tick those off one by one. So that's just another important thing to understand about how agents actually work. And finally, you can see that we have granular instruction and customization. In the agent instructions page, we've got the specific instructions for each different agent mode. Again, we'll look at this in more detail shortly, but that's where all of those live. Now, one of the most important things that I think this template has, and was actually one of the last things that I added, because when I was testing it, I just wasn't getting the output and the quality that I wanted. And what I realized was missing was some very specific context around who is using this template. For example, if I'm in a band or if I'm a tour manager or something like that, the AI agent doesn't know this by default. It doesn't know where I'm located, what markets I'm operating in, what my business goals are, or anything. And so it makes sense that we can prime the agent to have this information so that every time we're asking it a question, whether it's strategically related or perhaps like some sort of long-reaching operational goal, it is able to go in and actually reference this information. So let's have a quick look at what that is. I've called this the artist blueprint, and as you can see here, it's broken down into 8 different sections. I won't go through all of them in detail, but you'll quickly get the point here where you're able to select your project type, put your name, location, domain, social handles, primary instruments you play, key musical influences, all of that, and then strategic context. So what are your artist missions and principles, your current career phase, current goals, long-term, medium, all of this kind of stuff. And imagine that every time you're then asking the question, the AI is actually able to reference this and really give you very tailored, specific information about who you are and what you're trying to do. And as soon as I built this in and filled it out, it's actually in a different workspace, so unfortunately I can't show you, but the quality of the output that I was getting was 2 or 3 times better, and actually just a lot more sort of executable and valuable to what I was trying to do. It wasn't this kind of like generic, vague AI slop, which I know plagues a lot of people. So very important that this gets filled out as well when we're going through the onboarding. And then the final thing is linking the databases. Now, as I mentioned, Agent OS, this is the musician edition. So all of these databases here are placeholders for databases that exist in the Musician OS template. Now, I recommend coming in here and removing the placeholder, obviously, and then if we're putting in something like events, you then add the events database. And what this means is that when you are asking your agent to do things, it is always going to be editing the correct databases. This is especially important if you have a large workspace and you've got multiple tasks databases or project databases or whatever. You can actually specify here exactly which ones you want the AI to be modifying. Otherwise, if you ask it, it's either going to assume or it's going to ask you, and then it just is your time wasted telling it every single time. But the other thing you can do is, of course, you can come in here and you can actually mention the specific database that you want. I just wanted to build this system so it's a little bit more automated, a little bit more hands-off, and really gives the AI a very clear understanding of your entire system and process. Now, you don't have to add every single database, though I recommend that you do, but it is just here. And as you can see, it's in this red bounding box, which means that it is synced into other pages. So when you update the information here, it'll also update in the system instructions page. So let's come back here to the home page and let's look at guides and resources quickly. This is just a breakdown of best practices. So again, just reiterating the importance of going through linking your databases. And then if you want to customize your writing style and different templates, you can see here that I have got a short form script, which is essentially the prompt that I showed you. This is just it in a different format. And then there's also marketing copy if I'm getting it to do that. And the same for general email comms. I left this a little bit sparse because I know that everyone's probably got their own prompts or their own style that they want to put in. So this I recommend you also take a little bit of time doing. If you don't have any of these prompts or yet, you can just as well go to my prompt OS system. I've got a few of them in there, or you can just create your own and then add them in too. Now, if we come back to guides and resources here, you can see that there is use case inspiration. So this just gives you a few examples of how you could use each mode. We could say extract expense data from tool receipts and log them in your budgets tracker. You can create a project plan with tasks and milestones for upcoming releases. And just a little bit of inspo to get you started, because I know, especially having 8 modes, this is maybe going to be a little bit daunting for some people, but I didn't want anyone to be freaking out. So yeah, definitely you can try and play around with some of these once you've got your information filled out. And then again here, there's just some links to different books and videos and resources from my website. Awesome. Now let's do a little bit of a dive into the system instructions page. So you can see here, this is actually the page that we would want to link to our agent. So if we come in here and we just remove this page, we add in our own, you can say use existing page, and this is the one. And then as soon as this page is added correctly, you'll see that it pops up here. This page is set as your Notion AI instructions page. Fantastic. So what actually happens when I write in a prompt? If we just say, write me a short form script about how to use Notion AI for musicians. Now I'm going to pre-select the model because I actually prefer ChatGPT's writing style, and I've actually put a logic in this instructions page that if you're not using ChatGPT and you're trying to write scripts, it'll just prompt you, hey, you should probably use ChatGPT. Just a personal preference, but I find it to be much better. It uses more colloquial language, but when you're trying to write more long form stuff, ChatGPT can actually be super annoying because it tries to talk to you like a mate. They've kind of overcompensated for that, in my opinion. So let's just have a quick look here at what happened when I asked it to do that. So it had a thought. I need to follow mode selection logic protocol. Great. So that's what this is down here. And specifically mode 3, which is correct. This is our marketing and content director. And I should check the writing styles to find the templates, which it did do. So as mentioned, we've got the writing styles. Where are we here? And this is indeed the thing that it would have read. So let's just see if it obeyed the structure. You can see here that it's got the hook, yes. It's got the promise, yes. And then it's got the proof and the process. So immediately, this has done away with the need to even have a separate GPT. I no longer have to go onto ChatGPT's website, open up my GPT and do the thing. This is all baked in here now. And what is making this even more insane is I say, great, let's add this to my content database. Now, I actually haven't linked this in the databases yet. So just to make sure that this goes in the right place, I'm going to just link that there and fire that off. So as you guys can see immediately, we don't have this context switching or jumping between different apps, because I just as well could do this in Claude or ChatGPT, copy it, and then come here to my content database and add it in and go through that whole process. But this is just a little bit more hands-off, and you can ask it to do a thing and you can let it cook. And it goes, cool, it's added it. So if we come and have a look, sure enough, it's a short form content, it's a draft, and here is the scripts along with all of the other visual notes. Like, that is very, very epic. And additionally, you can ask it to do any of these changes. So anything that you can do in Notion, your agent can now do as well. So if we come back here to the system instructions, you'll see all of this is happening autonomously. I recommend that you read through each of these different bits here, and you can also look through the mode selection logic. As you'll see, if we come down to mode 3, trigger keywords, so content, post, copy, caption, add, any of this kind of stuff that's in your prompts, it's going to know to assess this. But if you write a complicated prompt, it'll still run through the entire system instructions to make sure it's choosing the right one. And some of you might be asking, okay, that's cool, but what if I'm just asking it to perform a simple function? Don't you worry, we have provisions for that. So there is the quick question protocol. So if a user asks a simple, straightforward question that doesn't require full mode depth, answer it directly and efficiently. So if I'm asking it to add a new task to clean the pool, right? It's not going to go through and do a complete deep dive analysis of every single one of these different modes, because what actually happens when it does do that is it uses up extra sort of credits and I guess time. It has to burn through a lot more tokens to arrive at the decision that, hey, this just needs to go in here. One of the reasons it actually took me so long to build this template is because I realized there needed to be a lot of conditions built in to make sure that it's super efficient. You can imagine if I was to feed in an entire book and be like, hey, write me a short form content on this book, and it has to read through 1,000 pages, well, it's going to take a long time to get to that outcome. Whereas here, if we look, you can see I need to add a new task. First, I should find the task database. Great. It appears that this is in the Atlas page database. Yes. Link. Task data source, clean the pool, probably the best status. Boom, boom, boom. So as you can see here, it didn't go through the entire mode selection logic, go through the different modes, and all of this kind of stuff. It basically just executed this in a very simple, fast way, which is the result that we want. One of the things that I'm very proud of with this template is it uses the minimal amount of tokens to get the job done. So it's only referencing what it needs to. It's got all of these different frameworks and provisions in here to make sure that everything is refined and efficient and fast. And again, if you wanted to add any different modes or adjust these modes, you're more than welcome to. Which brings us to the next section here, which is the different modes. So if we come down here to mode 3, you can see that there is a provision to say, hey, if I'm doing any content requesting and I'm not using ChatGPT, just mention that to the person as well. And you can see we have core identity and mission. There's artist context. So it'll reference the artist blueprint as per the global loading decision tree when this mode requires it. Core content competencies, tool usage. So when to search the workspace, and then context handoff. So if it realizes, hey, I need to actually escalate this to a different model, this is the process that it will follow, and everything signed off with a small mission. And so this brings me to this point about context engineering. We want to make sure that the information we're sending to the AI is condensed as possible. Initially, this page was about 5,000 words. Now I've got it down to about 1,000, and it produces way better results when it's much shorter like this. So I compel you, if you're going to create new modes or adjust this, just be super mindful to keep the content as condensed as possible, just super punchy and super short. And this follows the best practices, which you can see here, which Notion essentially have done for a few of the other sort of agent personalization examples. All right, so coming back here, if you're building your own agent system, what I actually recommend you do is you work recursively, which means that you actually feed your system instructions into the AI and you say, hey, I'm building a systems instructions page. Can you please review everything and tell me where to optimize, what's too long, what's too short, what I'm missing? And it'll actually start to give you a bit of a breakdown. And I did this several times in order to get to this point here. So you can see under version and benchmark, I actually got it to score everything for me, and I kept on refining the system until I got it up into this 9.25. Originally, my first version was like 7. And so now you can see that everything is scoring much better. Tone of voice is good. The only thing that's a little bit low is database integration, because I have all of these placeholders and didn't really understand that the placeholders were there because a user is going to use it and replace it with their own stuff. And so this is the overview of Agent OS. I'm currently running a launch discount on this template if you want to get it on my website. Otherwise, I have given you guys an overview of this whole thing. You're more than prepared to build your own multi-mode agent workflow as well. The ball is in your court. And I think given the power of these tools, your creativity is really the only limit here. You can do so much to refine this in the way that works best for you, but I really think that you should be super focused on the writing styles and the templates, because you can have all of these predefined prompts that essentially get built in and even replace the need to have custom GPTs or anything like that. So again, if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you think I should add into this template, please feel free to message me, email me, whatever it is, comment, like, subscribe, all of that cool stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.